if you try to do your best, it tends to always work out. And that doesn't mean you won't have problems.
Right.
In fact, that actually means you'll have more problems faster, but the problem is how you learn. The problem is what give you the opportunity to grow. Problems give you purpose, man. People need to reframe their programming as it relates to problems, because they think that problems make them unique, like their problems like mean something is wrong. It's not true.
It's not true at all. You're right. Problems do give you purpose, because as long as you're willing to lean into those problems and solve them.
You got to go at them head on, immediately, aggressively, and with extreme prejudice. You have to embrace it and welcome it, because the thing is, like a situation will escalate into a problem, and a problem will escalate into a full-blown crisis the longer you leave it unaddressed. And that's what people tend to do, right? They know something's wrong. They see something's wrong. They feel something's wrong, but they don't address it.
And bury the head.
And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And for a little while, you can actually ignore it to where it doesn't like impact the normal way of life, whether it's business, personal. But literally, ultimately, it will be one day to the next. That problem will now consume everything, and that's when things really get nasty.
Yeah. And I've experienced that.
I think we all have, right?
Like, I was the king of procrastination and avoidance.
Yeah.
And at some point, I realized, holy smokes, I'm having these anxiety attacks and I can't figure out why. Yet I've got a shit ton of problems that have gone addressed. Many of them now are in crisis mode. And that might give you the anxieties and the panic attacks.
I believe that stress and anxiety, or the stress that comes from anxiety, I believe that it comes from our objective awareness or knowledge that something isn't right, yet we're not doing anything about it. That is stressful. Because the fact is, like, you can have a problem going on, but as soon as you start taking productive action towards that problem, it doesn't feel as bad. That's just a fact. Like, you feel, you're making progress. Even if it's just taking that first step, that's progress. And that's where good things come from. That's where good, positive, that's where happiness comes from.
That
is progress. So you gotta identify it immediately and not pretend that one day it's just going to correct the history of the world, right? Debatably, how long the Earth has been here. That has not happened one time in the history of this species. Problems do not go away. They only get worse. They get a lot worse. And the problem is, if you don't address things, it'll get to a point where legitimately it affects everything, personally, professionally, and that's when things get really, really nasty, and the spiraling out of control will present itself in your life. You don't want that.
You're right. You literally end up getting fully consumed by it at some point, but at some point it was also a very manageable issue.
Yeah.
I just fixed that one issue. We see that with employees. You see that with vendors. You see that with marketing. Like, all right, home prices are going down. Okay, the cost of marketing is changing. Competition is increasing, but I'm still going to do things the same way because it's just safer.
Yep.
It's just what I know. Well, if you see home prices going down, competition getting extreme, social media, maybe the economy's changing and you have to pivot and look for a different way. But again, issues to problems to crisis.
I think we should always be looking for a different way. I think we should always be looking for a better way. I think that's what the growth mindset is. I think that's what humility is. It's not like you could be good at something and still be working to improve on that. You could be, if you're terrible at something, hopefully you're setting your actions up and hiring people and whatever to where that offsets that. But I think humility is just, which obviously probably one of the most sought after character traits that we can have as human beings and entrepreneurs. It's not just, being, just like overly like humble and practical and all this. It's always looking for a way to do things better, regardless of how good or even great those things are currently going.
Amen.
That's basically a recipe to avoid complacency.
Amen.